Hello, Maggie. Welcome to this call. So we were wondering, what is this exhibition that's coming up about and how does it relate to Volpower?
So our exhibition, which is called Joint Narratives and Digitalised the Facets of Youth Volunteering, presents our volunteers' everyday experiences with inclusion and empowerment within their immediate communities and wider societies during their volunteering activities. And the core concepts of this exhibition are based on young people's narratives that examine the everyday processes of volunteering, community building, and youth empowerment. And its connection to, or how it relates to Volpower is, obviously Volpower is a study that we're involved with, and it explores how migrant and non-migrant volunteers' participation in sports and creative arts and culture forge intercultural dialogue. And our study seeks to understand how youth volunteering in sports and arts can serve as a mechanism for social integration of young people. And by incorporating creative research methodologies, we offer tools to our volunteers by which they could collaborate in this research and express themselves through creative means.
And the material they collected, that you have collected for this, how is this done? And then how were the materials and the resources curated themselves?
So the work was collected across the 7 European sites, and this was done through workshop activities that I designed. So I had designed some poetry workshops, photography workshops that we got artists involved with, video making, and in Glasgow we also did collage. And so the within all of the national groups across the 7 EU sites, they all engaged their volunteers in creating these works. Some of the works were created individually by the volunteers, you know, some of the poetry, they were given guidance and exercises to do, and they created some of the poetry themselves. Some just created their own poetry without the exercises, and others created poetry within workshop settings. Their videos were I suppose in a sense video scrapbooks, like video diaries that the volunteers created using actually an app called 1 second a day, and they videoed 1 second each day of their life, and then we put them together in a kind of montage. And a lot of these skills the volunteers had first developed during the first year of Volpower, when a selection of the volunteers, or all of the volunteers actually went to Zagreb for a week for training, which was a digital skills training week, and they're learning skills around digital storytelling. So all of these activities built upon this week of training that our Volpower volunteers had. And once the volunteers had produced these works, they uploaded them to a shared drive, where then I was able to access them and file them all, edit them all, and look through them all and see what kind of stories were being told. For example, the photography activity, the volunteers were asked to respond to 12 weekly concepts. So concepts such as this place around me, diversity, inclusion, skills, my favourite things. And the volunteers would respond to these in a creative way and take a photograph that would kind of portray that feeling or that experience, and then the volunteers would upload it to the drive and I would collate them all.
And when you've collected this and the curation part, did you feel it was different from how normally an exhibition would be curated? And do you think that the research aspect of Volpower had a part to play in the entire exhibition?
Yes, absolutely. Because this exhibition is research-based, which I mean, some art exhibitions are research-based, but normally you're working directly with artists and you're exhibiting maybe one artist's work, or you put a call out for different artists on a particular theme. But in this case, we are exhibiting our volunteers' work. This exhibition is a celebration of our volunteers' journeys, their stories, their narratives. And that's what we want to display. So it is different in that sense, is because this is a research project more than anything else. It's a research project that we are sharing in a kind of non-academic sense with a wider public.
That's fantastic. Now, we're currently still going through a pandemic that doesn't seem to be slowing down. And that, of course, has interfered with a lot of plans, especially with regards to Volpower and to what events were meant to happen. When it comes to the exhibition itself, how and what methods did you use to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, this was very difficult because originally our exhibition was supposed to take place in Rotterdam in a physical space, and obviously viewing our experience in artworks is very different in a physical space than it is online, because you're physically walking about. How works are presented in a space affects how you understand them or how you view them. So how we were going to translate this to an online exhibition was quite difficult, and we also had to make that decision very quickly. One day we were holding an exhibition in a physical space in a big European city, and then very quickly we had to decide what we were going to do. So we decided that we were going to move it online, and then we had to think about how we would do that, and the ideas that I had about curating it in a space and how I was going to present the volunteers' works then all had to be changed. How could we do them justice? How could we present their works in an online space that people could still get the same feelings or shared experiences with? So we called on the help of some artists, digital artists, to come on board with us to help us provide, I guess, a platform for our volunteers' works. And we had to rethink that and had to work very closely with the artists to make sure that they were understanding the volunteers' works, that they were understanding the stories the volunteers were telling, but also that they weren't overpowering the works with their own materials.
Now, talking about the artists, tell us a bit more about them. Where do they come from? How's their experience with relating to volunteering? And as well as any of the volunteers that had specific input into the exhibition that was, something that stood out.
Okay, so our artists came from Turkey, Iran, and Scotland, here at Edinburgh, here in Scotland. And they all brought something very different with them, very different skills. We have one that's an animator. We have two chaps from Turkey who produce kind of Instagram docs, so like mini documentary style digital works, and a young woman from Iran who produced very intricate works, and she was very interested in the temporality of migration and whatnot. So what I was really interested, it was very interesting, very exciting working with the artists very closely as well, and I was able to guide them on how to use the materials, but also sometimes if there was any misunderstanding around the materials that they were using, because during the process of creating this exhibition and during the process of creating the activities, the creative activities that the volunteers participated in, I really got to know the volunteers. Obviously, some of the volunteers I was privileged enough to meet in person, but some of them I didn't. But through working with them on these creative activities, I really got to know them. I got to know their stories. I got to know their experiences, their friends, where they live. So I was able to pass that on to the artists who were involved, so that the stories were being told were accurate and true. So it was a very exciting time, quite stressful because it was very different from working face to face with artists. You were having to do everything online and make sure that everything was going to work well with our exhibition and what we wanted to say in Volpower.
Talking about online, at the end of the day, we're using the medium as to convey a message. What would you say is the message of this exhibition?
I think the main message of the exhibition is our young people's narratives and stories, and how important it is to be able to express ourselves creatively and through creative means, and the importance of arts and culture and also sports as a vehicle for connecting and finding, I think, similarities between each other. I think that's a very powerful message.
When is the exhibition opening, and why should people come to the exhibition?
The exhibition opens to the general public on the Saturday, the 23rd of January. We will be having a private viewing, VIP guest opening of the exhibition on the 22nd of January, just like any other great exhibition. And people should come, one, to celebrate our volunteers' works, that they've worked really hard, but also to see how this exhibition has, I guess, as an example of how it's been affected by a pandemic, both negatively and positively, because it's shown how we have pulled together and created this kind of groundbreaking exhibition within very dire circumstances, but also to see how creative our young people in our project are.
Well, thank you very much, Maggie. And everyone who's watching this, you should definitely attend the exhibition. It's online, it's very easy to access. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you, Alex. Bye-bye.